Well, what are the chances? Two Nakamichis in a row. This one is a BX-1, another two-head cassette deck. Nice looking unit though. Take a look at that. Has regular Dolby B, I assume, EX, SX, or ZX tape selection, and either 70 or 120 microsecond equalization. Already got the cover off this thing. Just want to take a peek, see inside. Looks just like the last mechanism, basically. Pretty simple. Loading motor down there. And right in the center of your screen is the take-up motor for the supply or take-up reels. And then there is the capstan motor connected to the flywheel with a belt right there. This one appears to be a couple of days older than the last one. So I haven't powered this thing on yet. I thought I would just zoom in here and take a little look-see around. Do those fuses look okay? Yeah, I guess they are. I don't see any black spots on them whatsoever. There's the oscillator coil for the erase, I would assume. Op amps. There's a contact relay. Boy, I hope the contacts aren't bad in that. Definitely an older version of the last tape deck I looked at, the BX-100. But yeah, nice looking unit nevertheless. Hopefully all this is somewhat good down in here. Well, let's go ahead and plug it in, turn it on, and see what it wants to do. One moment. Okay, power is currently off. I did previously power this on and noticed that these -30s do light up possibly all the time. As you can see, that the shutter speed of the camera is affecting that once again, because they are some kind of a modulated output. But let's see if it does anything. Fast forward. Nothing. Rewind. Stop. Play. Do I even see a light over here? No, I do not. So do we have a power supply problem? I mean, I got the lights. Nothing wants to do absolutely anything. Timer switch over here. No difference. Is it just a bad switch? I'm not a fan of these weird rocker switches in the least. System control issue? I don't know. But it does not want to play at all. Doesn't even want to light up a light. So I'm thinking the first place we might look is power supply, just to make sure what should be there is actually there, especially going into the microprocessor chip that lives probably right down there. Yeah, this will be a fun one, at least. A little bit of troubleshooting having to go on here. Well, let me round some stuff up, maybe find a print on this thing and check a couple of voltages, and we'll go from there. One moment. All right, so I did print out a couple of schematics. So the things I want to look for are right here, this regulator, 7812. I want to see if we have a positive 12 coming out of it, and then a -6 by this Zener diode right there, and a 560 ohm 1 watt resistor. And if all that is good, then I would like to come over here to this page and make sure that we have 12 volts going into this transistor right here, which is a Zener regulator, and then 5 volts coming out right there, which goes into the microprocessor right here, and VDD is fed from that 5 volt source. So let's go ahead and make some checks. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is just measure voltage across the fuses and see if I might have an open fuse. 0.02 volts AC, that's fine. And 0.02 volts AC on that fuse as well. So I'm going to say that's good. Just for the heck of it, I'll shut power off. We'll go to the continuity. So it should beep if the fuse is good. That one is good. And that one is good as well. Okay, let me go ahead and get a test lead set up here. And I'm just going to connect it to one of the RCA jacks as chassis ground. One moment. Okay, test lead attached. Just as a precaution, we'll go ahead and measure 0 ohms on the center tap of the transformer, which is the black wire. And according to the schematic, that would be the black, so that is ground right there. So I need to try to find a place where I can get my plus 12, and then we can try to find this Zener diode ZD401 and see if we got our minus 6 volts coming out of that. But a really basic check that we can do is just, we'll go back to DC volts, and we'll just measure the output of the bridge rectifier. So I've got minus 24 volts there and plus 24 volts on that one. So something is happening in here. And so that diode ZD401, which, there it is, under this resistor right there. 0 volts on that side. And I've got my negative 6 volts on that side. So I need to make sure that I have my positive 12 coming out of here somewhere. But it's probably going to be easier just to measure it over here on the microprocessor on pin 42. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, here is pin 42. And I've got 0.554 volts. That's going to be a problem. I should have 5 volts. I'm off by a factor of 10. So there's that 12 volt regulator, but I can't really get to it easily. I could try to print out a schematic. I think it's this capacitor right there. I mean a circuit board layout. 1.8 volts there. I don't want to have to pull the whole board out. Maybe I can pop the bottom off of this thing. One moment. Okay, so here is the input of the regulator, and I've got 23.5 volts. Let's go to AC and see if we have much ripple. 1/10 of a volt, that should be just fine. And then this is the output filter cap, and I actually have 11 volts. And now I have 3.3. So do I have a bad solder connection here? My ground is ground. My input is 23. Check the ground again. It is 0. And the output is 3.6. What? There, it just went up to 11 volts. I think I've got a bad regulator right here. As simple as that. And then we're back. We went down. We're up again. So let me set the range on this. There we go. We'll put it at 60. And so it appears to be working at the moment, but it just went down and came back up a second ago. So let me see if I've got a 7812 voltage regulator. While we're here, let's go ahead and check pin 42 of the microprocessor. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm on the pin, very bottom of your screen. I've got 5 volts there now. So I do believe that the regulator is the problem in this unit, because once again, I've got 11 volts. I did have, what was it, 3 a minute ago? Yeah, that could be the problem. All right, let me go check and see if I can find a 7812 regulator. I think I keep those in stock. One moment. Well, I certainly do have a brand spanking new L7812. That's a 12 volt 1 amp regulator. I think it's on semi. I believe, yeah, that's on right there. I'm not sure. No, it's ST. I'm sorry, ST semi. So let's go ahead and unsolder that. And it looks like 1 screw back here, 1 screw there, and the whole heat sink and everything will lift off of the board. So let's get that started and see what happens. One moment. Okay, so with that out of circuit, let me get my ESR tester out here. And we'll try to set it up here where you can see it. I just want to ESR these 2 filter caps right here. Always spin the leads around because they've been sitting for a moment. We'll zero this out. A little high. Normally I see about 0.8 or 0.9. Possibly oxidation on the leads. Okay, 0.1, reset. So this is the input filter cap. And I get 0.02, I'm fine with that. The output filter cap. 0.02, 0.03. That's fine. So a high ESR cap can potentially damage the regulator with the spikes. So let's go ahead and pop out that screw. There is one hiding here I didn't see, so I got to pop the back cover off to get to it. So let me get that done and we'll be right back. One moment. All right, so I got the back kind of off. Hopefully enough I can get to this one screw. Now if I flip this thing over, theoretically, this heatsink, whoops, I missed one screw. Okay, now this should just lift completely off. And yes, there it is. Look at that thing, 7812. That's an old one. That's got to be from the early 80s. And it is metal tab, so that's good. So I don't have to provide an insulator. Let's go ahead and get it replaced and installed. And of course it's spinning. Pliers. Okay, so it is off. Grab a little bit of heatsink compound here. Just going to rest it right there. We'll get some new heatsink compound and get that new regulator installed. Okay, pretty happy with that. We'll get her reinstalled down here, get her soldered back up to the board, get the screws in it, we'll give it another test. One moment. Okay, new regulator is installed. Let's go ahead and power it up and see what kind of voltages we get now. All right, power on. I've got 22 volts positive and 12.1 volts negative. What about pin 42 of the microprocessor right there? 5.07 volts. That's perfect. So this thing might actually work at this point. Let me get this stuff out of the way, get it disconnected, flipped up, and we'll see if we get any results when you press some of the buttons. One moment. Well, that's certainly something we didn't have before. A stoplight, even though it's green. Stoplights are normally red. But we do have a stop light illuminated. So let me go ahead and zoom this out just a tad. And that should be good right there. Well, we'll hit fast forward and see if something moves. And it's slipping. Rewind. Slipping. Let's pop the tape out. Does anything? No, it's going to need an idler just like the last one. At least look, the counter works on this one without having to do any work to it. Oh, doggone it. Well, let's go ahead and pop out these two screws that you can just barely see down in there and see if we can give it the acetone treatment. It didn't happen on the last one, so I may have to order a second belt kit for this unit. Uh-oh. That does not feel good. Well, it came out. Let me see. Prying apparatus. Oh, it's almost the exact same thing as the BX-100. Same, almost identical idler. It's almost turning. Definitely needs a new counterbelt. Look at that. Well, let's get the acetone. Well, it hasn't stopped yet. That's a good sign. Acetone in a cotton swab. I'm going to add a little extra force here to keep it spinning. Clean off the motor surface as well. Well, so far so good. I can stall the motor now. What about in rewind? Yes, I can stall it in rewind. Still able to stall it in fast forward. Well, let's pop a tape into it and see if it wants to play. And no, it is not taking up. I think it's got dirty contacts in what I would call the mode select switch, because it does fast forward and rewind just fine, but on play it does this weird thing where it goes through 2 cycles before it does anything at all. Putting the lid back on the acetone. Very squeaky. Let's go ahead and there's the 3 switches right down there. So let me zoom in if I can, one-handed. And then I'll hit play. It just keeps going. It's like the Energizer Bunny. Ooh. Oh, did we get somewhere? I think it's got dirty contacts. It shouldn't keep going. Okay, well anyhow, it stopped. And look at that. It is actually playing at this point. Do we have any audio on our meters? And yes, we certainly do have audio on the meters. So I'm thinking at this point we just need to go ahead and get a piece of paper and clean those contact switches, if I can even gain access to them. I may have to pull this whole thing apart to clean the switches. Oh, bummer, dude. One moment. So honestly, I think the easiest plan of attack, and I know someone's been here because that is not an original Nakamichi belt. I think the easiest plan of attack is to go ahead and just remove these 3 screws so that I can pull this whole bracket up and out of the way, and then possibly I can get to what I need to get to. I'll leave that one in there loosely. And then this one, wow, I can barely. Maybe it's not in there too tightly. No, that's not going to get me anywhere though. Well, maybe it will. I need to get this out of the way first. Alrighty. That's perfect. Yeah, I'm thinking somebody changed that belt at some point. those 2 screws up and out of the way right there. And then possibly from the bottom. Oh, that one's in there. There we go. Oh, am I going to have to pull the whole mechanism out? Oh, yes. I am. Doggone it. Oh well, on this one it shouldn't be too terribly bad. Hopefully nothing unsolders itself from the motor, just remembering that the 2 oranges are positive and the 1 green is negative on the motor. Okay, 2 screws removed from the bottom of the mechanism right there. And they go in those 2 holes right there. There's 1 here and 1 right there. Now the mechanism should, theoretically, be loose. And hopefully it'll just come out like that. 1 more ground screw over here. Partially thread that back in so I don't forget where it actually came from. And hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to release the brake and take the counter belt off. Set that guy aside. And then oh, you've got to be kidding me. I've got to do more work. I've got to take that screw out, get that bracket off, because the screw I need to get out is right there. And of course, I don't want to lose that ball bearing. That's going to be fun. Okay, well, it's off. These things go back together pretty easily. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop the gear off the shaft completely. We can put a piece of paper in between these contact points here and then just close each contact, drag the paper in and out, and the abrasiveness of the paper is normally just abrasive enough to actually polish those contacts. So we'll just go ahead and use a piece of the schematic. Yeah, why not? Is that cannibalism? I don't think so. Okay, so I do have a piece of paper positioned in the contacts, maybe. going to try to close all three of them and just run it forwards and backwards. You can already see how much crud is coming off. We'll give it a little extra pressure. And then I'm going to try to flip it out. Nope. To there. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm adding pressure to all three contacts. Dragging the paper through it. Now I'm going to get a little bit of deoxit D5 for contacts. And of course my deoxit can is ruined for some reason. We'll put a bit of deoxit on there. We'll give her a quick polish with that. Okay, I'm going to call that good. We'll put her back together and see what happens. Remember, reassembly is the opposite of disassembly. And I think while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and give this guy a little droplet of oil just on the load side of the bushing right there. I'm not sure what state we're in, honestly, and I don't think it really matters at this point, as long as we can get this thing put back together. Just got to make sure the levers and cams are up and out of the way when it goes back together. Okay, let's put this thing together. One moment. Okay, we are back together. Let's go ahead and power this thing on. See if anything changes. And it did. So let's pop a tape back into it and see if it will play. And it's not taking up. It's slipping. Doggone it. Yep. It's going to need to have that idler replaced. So at this point, I'm going to recommend that he replaces the idler and the two belts, the counter belt. Although it does seem to be getting much better. It's almost stalling the motor at this point. Yeah, I mean, we can try to run this thing and see what happens. Almost stopping the motor. What about rewind? Same thing in rewind. Will it take up the tape now? Maybe it just needs to be exercised. And yeah, look at that. Taking it up just fine. How about play? Yeah, and it is taking it up. Do we have audio? If I can move this out of the way. Yes, we do. Once again, because only one VU meter is showing, there's the other one. It is the camera shutter speed and the modulation of these lights that's causing it to be one channel or the other. Well, doggone it. I thought this was going to be an easy fix. Well, at least we got the system control problem out of the way. So it is actually working, which it did not do before. It didn't even have the stop light previously. So I'm going to recommend a belt kit for this, belt and idler kit. I don't even have the counter belt back on because it's in such great shape. It does not stay round any longer. So yeah, I'm going to recommend a belt kit for this one and the other customer's BX-100 at the same time. Anyhow, maybe there'll be a part 2 to this one and the other one. Remember, with your help, we can try to get these things out of the landfill, out of the recycle bin, and out of the e-waste facility. Everyone, thank you for making it to the end of what might be part 1 of 2. or part 1 of 1 if the customer declines the estimate. Once again, thanks for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.